Welcome to video number 3 for chapter 8, talking about verbs. In the first video, we talked about verb tense and aspect. There are 2 tenses in English, present tense, past tense. But there were 3 aspects. So we have present simple and past simple. We have present perfect and past perfect. We have present progressive and past progressive. Okay, with these tense aspect pairs, we get more a variety of verb forms. In video number 2, we talked about how to identify those tense aspect forms. In our third video, we've got the last thing we need to talk about, voice. We have active voice and passive voice. And I know for many students, hearing the word passive voice brings back some post-traumatic stress, nightmares. So let's look at passive voice, active voice. Okay, what does that mean? Right? Tense is sort of easy. Oh, it's present, it's past. That's time information. Things like progressive are a little easier. When we add an ing and I say, I am talking, Mr. Aaron means he is talking right now. That's a little easy to understand. What is voice? Okay, voice. What does it mean to be active voice or passive voice? Okay, if I have a sentence, the sun sets, a nice intransitive verb, okay, versus the sun is setting, still intransitive. Joyce is setting the table. Now I've got a direct object and I've got a transitive setting. Okay, if I have a transitive verb, I've got a subject and an object, right? And in an active sentence, the subject is doing the verb, the object is being acted on by the verb. So we have subject, verb, object, word order, everything's fine. Passive voice, I'm taking what usually is the direct object and I'm making it the subject of the sentence. Okay, and then I'm taking what would normally be the subject and I'm moving it after the verb into a prepositional phrase with the word by. The table was set by Joyce. Okay, I still have, it's still subject, verb, word order, right? But now there's no object, direct object after the verb because the direct object, the thing being acted on, I've made into the subject. So we're kind of reversing the order here. And notice I can only do this if I have a transitive verb. You must have a direct object. So in the first 2 examples, the sun sets, the sun is setting. That's an intransitive verb. There is no direct object. The sun is not setting anything. So there is no such thing as passive voice for intransitive verbs. I cannot take those first 2 sentences and swap them around. There's nothing to swap. I have only one thing I'm talking about, the sun. Whereas in the last example, I have Joyce and the table. So now I can move those around. Okay? And what happens here is that sometimes I can just drop that by phrase completely. I don't know who set the table, or it's not really important who set the table. So the table has been set. I have the object of the verb as the subject. I don't know who did that verb, right? Passive voice with unknown agent. Okay, so again, really think, does passive work with transitive or intransitive? Transitive only. You have to have a direct object that you can move to the front of the sentence. Okay. How do we form the passive voice in English? We have our subject. You need some form of the be verb, followed by the past participle, and then you may have a by phrase. A party was hosted by Dante last night. Was is the past form of to be. Hosted is the past participle. And we have a by phrase, by Dante. The road repairs have been completed. Have been is the present perfect form of the be verb. Have been. Completed is your past participle. And in this case, there's no by phrase. Okay? The walls were being painted a hideous shade of green. Were being is a past progressive form of the be verb. Painted is your past participle. And again, there's no by phrase here. The by phrase is optional. Why do we use this? Why do we do this? Goodness gracious, right? Why do we use passive voice? Okay, so in the first sentence, if I'm talking about the party and saying the party was hosted by Dante last night, that entity that's being acted on is more important than the agent. The agent is the person or thing that's doing the verb. In this case, I'm emphasizing party. I'm telling you about the party. The party is more important than poor Dante. We don't really care about Dante. Okay? Now, sometimes if I say the bank robbers were arrested or the road repairs have been completed, the agent is obvious. If I tell you bank robbers were arrested, there's no question in your mind about who did the arresting. Obviously, they were arrested by the police. I don't need to say they were arrested by the police. It's obvious. If the road repairs have been completed, I don't need to say that they have been completed by the road construction crew, right? We understand that the people doing the road repairs, they work for the city government, the municipal government. We don't need to specify that. It's obvious. Sometimes, though, the agent who did the action is just completely unknown. If I'm talking about the alphabet and saying the alphabet was invented thousands of years ago, who invented the alphabet? Was it, it likely wasn't even one person. It was likely a lot of different people over a long period of time. But I don't know who invented the alphabet. That was like 10,000 years ago or something. So the agent is unknown. So you can see here there are many reasons why we might use passive voice to move that direct object into the subject position. Okay? So let's see if we can change any of these sentences from active to passive. All right? I'm going to give you several sentences. I'd like you to pause the video now. And again, we're going to take what would be the direct object, if there is a direct object, and move it into the subject position. Keep the same tense aspect. So if it's in present tense, keep the verb in present tense. If it's past tense, keep the verb in past tense. If there's an ing verb or past participle, you want to keep all of those same tense aspects. Okay? Pause the video now, try it out, and then we'll look over the answers. Ready? Okay. Let's see what you got for number one. Okay. Number one was a command, an order. So here is the only instance in English where we can have a sentence without a subject, when we have the implied you. Crush a pineapple for this recipe means you crush a pineapple. We can put this into passive. A pineapple is crushed for this recipe. Okay? In the first sentence, it was present simple. So in the second sentence, we need to keep that be verb in present simple. Is. Okay? The past participle of crush is crushed. Okay? We don't need the by phrase because just like in the original sentence, the subject you is implied. In the second sentence, by you, the by phrase would be implied. So we don't need to say that. Number two, what did you get? Okay. We have could chair, that's modal. We need to keep the modal, but here we take the direct object committee, move it to the front. You need a be verb. Okay. Could be. Past participle of chair is chaired. Just add an ed. And if we're keeping the by phrase, by Ursula. She is making a mistake. A mistake. It's moved to the subject, right? The first sentence is present progressive, so we need the be verb to be present progressive. Is being made, okay? The past participle of make is made. Okay? I want you guys to see, if you didn't get this one, look at it very carefully and figure out what's going on. Jake has lost 3 pounds. We take the direct object, 3 pounds, move it to the subject position. Okay? Has lost is present perfect, so we need the be verb to be present perfect. Have been. The past participle of lose is lost. Have been lost. And we can put a by phrase with Jake. 3 pounds have been lost by Jake. The goldfish swallowed a fly. This one's usually easy for students. A fly was swallowed by the goldfish. And in the last sentence, the birds were flying around. Fly here is an intransitive verb. There is no direct object. So there's nothing to move into the subject position. This is an active sentence. It'll stay active. It cannot be made passive. Try yourself in the textbook, exercises 5 and 6. You will be given some active sentences and asked to make them into passive voice. In exercise 6, you're given some passive sentences and asked to make them into active voice. So a little practice there. There will be a forum on Moodle where you can post your questions, post your answers, post any questions about the answers, and get my feedback. Good luck and have fun.